Captain's Log 2423.6. The Enterprise is temporarily stationed above Planet Terran, while a maintenance crew, provided by the transporter manufacturer, tears into the mechanical and software issues plaguing the system. For the last 3 weeks, all transportation to and from the ship has been reassigned to shuttlecraft exclusively as anomalies in the transporter have created safety issues beyond the scope of the Enterprise maintenance crew. Kirk entered the transporter bay, followed by Spock, McCoy, and Dickerson. "What is it, Scotty?" Kirk asked. "Did you figure this bug out yet?" 2 men, dressed in company work uniforms, stood next to a large toolbox, donning impressive belts filled with gadgets that would allow them to work on the transporters. "The transporters are fine and are working according to manufacturer specs," one of the men stated. His name badge read Johnson. Scott replied, "According to the text, we have a systemic problem, not a transporter problem." "And?" Kirk asked. The other technician replied, "Whatever is causing your transporter issue is embedded deep into your ship's computer." Kirk noticed something familiar with this man's appearance and asked, "Do I know you?" Kirk asked, looking at his name tag, Robertson. "Yes, sir. You were my resident assistant back in college. We lived on the same floor in the dorm." Kirk tilted his head as he tried to recall Robertson, but nothing came to him. "You mean before Starfleet, right?" "Yes, sir. At the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Men's Hall, 5th floor. James Kirk grew up in Riverside, Iowa, 300 miles east of Lincoln, and briefly attended UNL before applying to Starfleet Academy at 17. "I apologize, but I don't recall you," Kirk said with a smile. "You got me kicked out of school," Robertson replied, a bit pissy. Kirk quickly put 2 and 2 together as a distant memory emerged and his demeanor changed. "I didn't get you kicked out of school. You did that to yourself," Kirk stated. "I remember you were abusive to other students and made threats. If I remember correctly, you were jailed at one time for assault off campus." "That was a long time ago, sir. I would rather not discuss this. Now, if you don't mind," Robertson said. "Well, I see you finally made something of yourself. Thanks for looking into our transporter issues. What do you recommend we do to fix this?" Kirk asked. "I don't think there is anything you can do," Robertson replied. "What do you mean? There must be something we can do. This is a Starship, not some laptop we can toss in the trash." "I'm a transporter technician," Robertson said. "Have your engineer notify the nearest starbase. I'll leave my report, but in the meantime, I recommend the transporter be tagged out and shut down." Kirk looked at Spock and then McCoy, shaking his head in disbelief. He looked back to Robertson and said, "A starship can't function without a transporter. Can you rig something up and get us by?" "Are you stupid, sir?" Robertson replied with a sneer. "You were an idiot at school, and you haven't changed a bit. I can't rig something up. That would be dangerous and irresponsible." For a moment, everyone was silent. McCoy barked, "Show some respect to your commanding officer." "He's not my commanding officer," Robertson replied. "I work for a living." Spock added, "With all due respect, I agree with the technician. We simply can't jury-rig a transporter. We have to work exclusively with a shuttlecraft." "So you agree with Robertson," Kirk snapped. "You think I'm stupid as well." "I wouldn't go as far to use such a language. I simply feel, in my opinion, that we need to shut down the transporter for the safety of our crew." Kirk paused and shrugged his shoulders in front of everyone in defiance. "Transport me to the planet's surface," Kirk said, and stepped up to the transporter pad. "Scotty, do as I say." Scotty didn't move. "You can't ask me to put your life in danger. We have no idea what will happen." "I'm not asking. I'm ordering you to transport me. Now." "At the risk of insubordination and a court-martial, I refuse," Scott replied. "You what?" Kirk asked, pissed. "I gave you a direct order, and I expect you to comply." "No, sir, I will not," Scott replied. Kirk pulled his phaser and aimed it at Scott. "As captain of this ship, I have the authority to carry out justice as I see fit," Captain snapped. Spock spoke up. "That's only when we are engaged in military conflict. You don't have the authority to kill Mr. Scott for refusing an order he feels goes against the safety code of Starfleet. You too, Spock? Kirk asked with a chuckle. How about you, Doctor? Are you against me as well? You're being irrational, Captain, and I question your sanity, McCoy said. Robertson spoke up. No one is going to transport you, Captain, so you might as well get off the pad. Secretly, Chief Security Officer Dickerson contacted and notified his crew to apprehend Kirk at their first chance. 4 members of security waited outside the door, waiting for an opportunity. McCoy says I'm irrational, Kirk said with a grin. Maybe I am, but I'm still the captain of this ship, and you will follow my orders. I certify you insane, Kirk. All here are my witnesses, McCoy stated. I now appoint Mr. Spock as the new captain of the Enterprise. Just then, Kirk was alerted to a call on his communicator. He flipped open the antenna and heard the voice of Ensign Sulu. Captain, we have a Klingon bird of prey 20 kilometers off our bow. Have they tried to contact us? Kirk asked. Not yet, Sulu replied. Before Kirk could say, shields up, 3 Klingons appeared on the transporter pad next to him. Shields up, Kirk said. Send a security detail to the transporter room. Security is already there, Sulu replied, and Dickerson let the 4 men through the door. How did you? Kirk said, and realized why they were there. That was fine. He needed them now. Kirk stepped down off the pad and asked, Am I captain, or should Spock take care of this? I rescind my medical order, McCoy replied. You are reinstated. Thanks, Bones, Kirk said, aiming his phaser at the closest Klingon. What can I do for you, gentlemen? Kirk asked the Klingon crew. Kirk, the lead Klingon said, addressing the captain. My name is Kolog, and I am here to take your ship. Kirk took a moment to ingest what the Klingon said. Take over my ship, you say? Kirk asked. And how do you plan to do that? Your starship is compromised and in need of repair. Our ship is in optimum working condition, Kolog replied. What do you know about the condition of my ship? Robertson told us, Kolog replied, gesturing at the technician. Kirk looked at Robertson and shook his head. Why? You made my life very difficult, Robertson replied. I've waited for an opportunity for revenge, and now I have it. This makes no sense, Kirk said. You would have had to plan this out way in advance for your plan to work. There is nothing wrong with your ship I can't repair. The issues you have encountered were planted by me remotely months ago. That's also when I contacted the Klingons and included them in my plan. Your transporter now works fine, and the systemic problems in your ship will be repaired with a press of a button, Robertson explained. I didn't make your life difficult. You did that to yourself, and that was over 20 years ago, Kirk snapped. You didn't have to turn me in. I asked you for leniency, and you refused. I could have been someone. People change, Robertson replied. Now you will pay. Even if I were responsible for your problems, you can't endanger the entire crew of the Enterprise, Kirk said. Why harm over 400 people? The crew will be fine, Robertson said. The Klingons want the Enterprise, and I want you to pay. Kolog said, What he says is true. We don't want your crew, just your ship, and we'll be on our way. What he does with you is his decision. We want no part of that. You can start transporting the crew to the planet's surface immediately, Robertson said. I reset the transporter to factory defaults and repaired the computer system so as you can plainly see by the transport of our Klingon guests. Starfleet won't stand for this, Kirk snapped. You won't get away with this. Robertson replied, Why do you care? You'll be dead soon anyway. Kirk spun around towards Robertson, but before he could fire his phaser, he was stunned by Dickerson and dropped to the floor. Why did you do that? McCoy yelled at the security officer. What a horrible place to end my story. I like to leave it on a cliffhanger. Hey, that's Mr. Scotty. He's the only member of the Starfleet crew I actually have here.